Hey guys, welcome back to my channel today. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys some more tips on how to stop buying makeup you will never use. This is a video that I did last week on my channel. You guys seem to really enjoy it, and all the tips that I shared on basically how to A, not waste money on makeup that you're never going to use, and 2, basically don't clutter your collection with stuff you're not going to use because it can get so overwhelming. If you haven't checked out that first video, make sure that you do that as well because there are some great tips in there. And without further ado, let's get on to sharing some more tips on how to shop smart for makeup. The first tip that I have to share for you guys today is actually utilizing sales the right way. This is something that I feel like is another trap that a lot of makeup lovers fall into, and that is when a big sale is happening at a major retailer, we have a crazy excuse to buy way more than we ever need. So when it comes to my tip on how to utilize sales the right way, you have to think about which products do you consistently use that are consistently in your rotation, and those are some good products to actually pick up during a sale because you know you're going to use them. For me, I like to pick up my Shiseido cotton pads because I go through those like crazy, and I also like to pick up brow products because those are products that I'm using on a regular basis. But I do think that treating yourself during a sale is actually an amazing tip as well. However, I do think you need to be doing it sparingly, and that is something that I think is the key to all of this. So how many of us have purchased so much during the sale because it said 20% off? Like totally me. In the grand scheme of things, 20% is actually not that much. I mean, it is of course a savings, but in theory, it's not that much. So when it comes to the VIB sale, I still think you need to be shopping smart and only picking like 5 items, probably max, that are new items to your collection that you want to treat yourself to. Definitely utilize the other tips in the video, like being aware of the products that you're picking up and visualizing how you're going to be using those new products because it does increase your chances of actually using it and not wasting your money on them. So that is super important because even though there's a sale, they still want to get you to spend much more money than what you typically would have spent if the sale wasn't on. Even with the Ulta 21 Days of Beauty, those products being 50% off, always make sure that they are products you are going to use. Of course, if it's a beauty staple, I would absolutely pick it up because you know you're going to be using it. But when it comes to something new, like an eyeshadow palette, make sure that you're aware of what you have existing in your collection and how you're going to use that product because it's still another product at the end of the day you're adding to your collection. As a side note, I do want to mention here the Rouge Reward. This is something that I have personally put to use as of recent because this is something that Sephora has introduced into their Beauty Rewards program not that long ago. And this is actually another tool that you guys can use in order to save money and make sure that you're still being a conscious, like smart buyer when it comes to makeup shopping. So the Rouge Reward, if you're not familiar, is a reward that Sephora gives you basically for converting 2,500 points and getting a 100 USD Rouge Reward, which is basically a gift card but also not a gift card because there's a lot of fine print rules attached to this gift. First of all, you cannot return anything when you have this reward in place. So I strongly suggest that it is best used actually with beauty staple products. So products that you are already going to be using, like I said, your favorite setting spray, your brow products, things like that, that you know you're consistently using on a regular basis. I think that way you don't run the risk of not liking it and not being able to return it. That being said, I do think that if you feel like you just want to splurge, it's your points, like get something fun with it, absolutely. But I think shopping smart is still being really aware of what you've got already and trying to make a smart decision on introducing a new product into your collection. A helpful hint for Canadians when it comes to the Rouge Reward is when you are on the Sephora website or on the app, make sure that you are going to the US page. There is a way to do that. Under settings in the app, you can do it. I don't quite remember where it is on the browser, but there is a way to change location. So you you are in the US section and then you go into their rewards bazaar and you'll see the Rouge reward there. I have rarely seen it on the Canadian side. I know that it supposedly exists, but I haven't ever seen it on that side. So just keep that in mind when the rewards do release, that you can go over to the US side, take a look at it, see if it's in there, and then you can cash them in as well. The cool thing about the fact that it is 100 US dollars is that it converts higher to us. So that is awesome. As a Canadian, I have had that reward be worth up to $130. So that's pretty cool. Tip number 2 is actually utilizing samples when it comes to going into stores. So I am the most familiar with Sephora. I do know that they can give you a sample of pretty much anything. So this is something that is super key for when it comes to especially trying a new product out, because if it's something like a foundation or some skincare product, you can absolutely get a sample and avoid purchasing it until you know if you like it. So that is always amazing. And I do think that some people still don't realize how many things you can actually get a sample of. Another tip along the same lines is actually when you have your Sephora points. So if you are a member of Sephora and you are one of those tiers, I do think that you should actually save your points instead of converting them at the 100-point level or even the 200-point level. The reason I say that is because a lot of those gifts at the 100 and 200-point level are really, really small in quantity. And honestly, I do think that they almost resemble a sample themselves. So save your points for the 500-point perks that are at least a little bit bigger of products. And if you can be really diligent, save them for the Rouge rewards or even some of those larger items, because those are actually worth a lot. So that is something that I also have within this same line. Make sure you're utilizing samples at Sephora. Definitely ask if they can give you one, because this is a new product that you're experimenting and you want to test it out before you buy it. Definitely make sure you are not converting your points at 100 and 200 level, because oh my goodness, it's so not worth it. Tip number 3 is supporting the brands that you already love and being cautious about trying other brands. What I mean by that is that if you guys have certain brands that just hold a soft spot for you, like for me, Charlotte Tilbury is a big one. I feel like Natasha Denona is a big one. It is very hard for me to say no to her eyeshadows in particular. Those are the brands I feel like I very easily fall into wanting their new products, and I am very aware of that. So because of that, I know when another brand I don't like as much or a brand that I don't connect with as much has a new release, I try really hard to avoid that one, knowing that I'm most likely going to fall victim to the ones that I already support, if that makes sense. A brand like Violet Voss, for instance. Now, no shame to the Violet Voss brand. It's a great brand. But for me, I feel like I can very easily say no to a Violet Voss product over a Charlotte Tilbury product, because Violet Voss is not a brand I have connected with as much as Charlotte Tilbury. So because I know that, I am very diligent in selecting certain releases from brands I already love and avoiding releases from brands I am not as connected to, in order to save money and to not clutter up my collection. If I'm purchasing every single palette I ever have my eye on, it's going to be the ones from the brands I freaking love that I'm going to pick up the most anyways. Now, if I did want a Violet Voss palette really badly and I saw that I could visualize myself using it, I was aware of the other products I had, and I felt like it was going to be a good fit, then I do think it's a smarter purchase to make sure that it fits into your existing collection instead of just buying everything because you think it looks pretty. Tip number 4 is to be aware of repackaged items. This is super important, you guys, because I feel like a lot of brands do this in order to grasp our interest again and make us spend more money again. What I mean by that is that if they have a mascara formula like Too Faced Better Than Sex, I have seen that mascara repackaged multiple times in glittery packaging and blinged out packaging and different color packaging and things like that in order to grab our interest again. If you already have that mascara and you have one backup, you don't necessarily need that mascara in all of the packaging options that it comes in, unless of course this is your ride or die product and that's the only mascara that you use. You know what I mean? I've seen this happen with the NARS Orgasm Blush as well, different packaging in order to entice customers. Same with the Tarte Lights Camera Lashes Mascara. I've seen that in multiple package colors too, and that is one I have personally become a victim of, because whenever they have a new release, they seem to repackage that mascara, and it does make me think twice on if I need it or not. So be aware of that marketing strategy because it's pretty powerful. Tip number 5 is one that I heard a lot of you guys do in my last video, and that is turning off post notifications on certain accounts on Instagram that seem to really entice you on makeup releases. Again, this is no shade to any of those. I, of course, love being in the know, but if you find this to be a temptation, I do think turning off post notifications is really important. It's not so much the accounts that promote lots of new releases on Instagram that can be a temptation for me. I mean, those definitely can, but I also find that following certain brands can also do that because they often put tutorials on their page and they have new products showcased on how to use them and beautiful looks, and then it actually makes me want to buy products I never had my eye on to begin with, but when I saw them being used in a particular way, it then reintroduced that product to me and enticed me again. For example, Marc Jacobs actually recently released this stiletto palette. It is a cool toned eyeshadow palette that I really love, and it also came with some eyeliners in some really cool shades as well, which initially enticed me. There was one that was kind of like a gray color, and I was like, ooh, I don't have a gray in my collection, but I also couldn't really visualize how I was going to use it, and so I put it away. And then when I went on Instagram one day, I saw that they had put that particular eyeliner on another girl, and they made it look so beautiful, but I had to kind of take a step back and be like, you know what, it's still not a good fit for me because the way they did this look is a look I will never wear. So I have to keep that in mind. It was more so an editorial look, something that was very heavy liner with like some cool lines and stuff. That's not something that I'm ever gonna wear, so I had to remember that I still do not need that eyeliner, even though they showcased it in such a beautiful way. So make sure that you are very hyper aware with this stuff. And of course, the emails from companies can get really annoying too, so unsubscribe to those emails if you find them to be very tempting. The next tip is actually one that I heard from some of you guys, so thank you so much for sharing this. I actually think I'm going to put this into practice myself, and that is when it comes to choosing channels that you watch and influencers that you follow, make sure that they are ones that you trust, and or make sure that they share the same aesthetic as you. So the reason why I'm saying and or is because we do watch people for different reasons. I know for me, I watch makeup artists to learn, and sometimes their style might not coexist with mine, but I still love watching their channel because I trust them and I can connect with them in a certain way. Of course, it's a double whammy if you can find somebody that has a similar skin type, similar style to your makeup, and that way you can actually see some of these products you have your eye on in person, and you can actually see them on someone that shares the same preferences in order to potentially figure out how a product could work for you or how it could look on you. So for me, with the channels that I watch, trust is super important. If I, for some reason, have a weird feeling in my stomach when I'm watching somebody and I don't get the vibe that they're telling me the whole truth, I will unsubscribe and I will not watch their videos. I just don't want another temptation in order to buy makeup that I won't use, to waste money and to clutter up my collection, because if my collection gets too large for my purposes, I can get really overwhelmed and it can really squash my creativity. The channels that I watch definitely inspire me, but at the core, I trust those people, and that is so important when it comes to shopping smart for makeup. The last tip I have for you guys today is actually creating a beauty budget. This is super important as well, especially for those that want to stick to a certain amount of money per month or per year when it comes to makeup purchases. This tip is especially important for those of you that have other financial goals in your life and you don't necessarily want to spend your money on makeup right now. You would rather put it towards something else. So what I mean by that is there's a lot of you that have a reason that you're doing a no buy or a low buy because you want to pay off your mortgage, or you want to pay down some debt, or you want to go on a vacation, and instead of actually purchasing things, you want to have an experience. So that just depends on what you guys are after. I know there's people that simply were just not impressed with how much money they were spending on makeup just in general. They didn't have a goal in mind. They just said, wow, I spent too much money. So it just depends on your why when it comes to your budget, but I do think this is super important to think about. Keep this beauty budget pretty realistic. I mean, you're not going to want to set it at $20 if you are a high-end makeup lover like me, because I don't even think you can get an item for $20. It's going to be pretty hard to do that. So keep it something reasonable for your goals. If that is just enough for one product a month, or you want to go really, really strict and just have a no buy so you can save all of that money for something else, that is going to be your preference. But I do think creating a budget is going to be a way to keep you very accountable, and you can look back on each month and see how much you've actually spent in order to justify new purchases and bring new products into your collection. Going a step further is actually creating a vision board, and this is something that I have seen being done really well here on YouTube. There's a lot of videos on creating a vision board. Now, I think creating a vision board is going to be key for those of you that have other goals because you can actually visualize what you're working towards. So if that is a trip overseas or a trip down to see a family member, then you can put a picture of that family member, or you can put a picture of the destination on that board, and that's going to serve as a constant reminder to pay attention to your goal and also your why, because when it comes to getting a new makeup alert, you do want a product so dang bad, and then you see your vision board and it reminds you, it can really help you stay in tune with your goals. Kind of along the same lines of a vision board, you can also put a picture on your background of your phone that is your why, about why you are on the low buy or why you're on the no buy, why you're setting a beauty budget. That way, when you have your phone on your hip like me, it's a constant reminder as well. So if you see that alert that says Trend Mood has posted a new release, but you open up your phone and you see that destination picture, and that's why you're saving your money, so you can go to the Bahamas or something, then that will help you reel in some of that temptation in order to make a smarter decision with your money. Anyways, guys, that is it for my tips on how to shop smart for makeup and basically stop wasting your money on products you're never going to use. Of course, there is a first part to this video where I have other tips outlined, so definitely don't forget to check that video out if you haven't seen it yet. I will link it in the description box for you. And until my next one, guys, take care. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, guys.